This is the land of Havilah, Amos 7. Amos will have a series of very short visions. Verse 1. Thus the Lord Yahweh showed me, and behold, he formed locusts in the middle of the shooting up of the latter growth, and behold, it was the latter growth after the king's harvest. When they finished eating the grass of the land, then I said, Lord Yahweh, forgive, I beg you. How could Jacob stand? For he is small. Yahweh relented concerning this. It shall not be, says Yahweh. Comment: to understand verses 1 to 3, we must understand there's no rain in Israel during the dry season, which is half the year. The average monthly rainfall in summer is 0.00 inches. There's no rain. In the dry half of the year, the flocks and herds eat the standing grass that grew during the wet season. In Amos's vision, Yahweh sent locusts in early spring, which ate all the grass. Amos understood that, as usual, there would be no rain in the forecast to make the grass grow again. With the spring grass being destroyed, there would be about 8 months without grass, and the flocks and herds would die. He figured the plague of locusts he saw in the vision was coming, so he cried out, Lord Yahweh, forgive, I beg you, and Yahweh relented. But now, verse 4, Thus the Lord Yahweh showed me, and behold, the Lord Yahweh called for judgment by fire, and it dried up the great deep, and would have devoured the land. Then I said, Lord Yahweh, stop, I beg you. How could Jacob stand? For he is small. Yahweh relented concerning this. This also shall not be, says the Lord Yahweh. Comment: in verses 4 to 6, Amos had another short vision of approaching judgment. Yahweh called for fire, and it came so intensely that it dried up the sea. It would have devoured the land. But Amos begged for Yahweh to have mercy on Jacob, Jacob being the nation Israel, and Yahweh relented again. With two visions like this now, we're getting the feeling Israel's due for judgment and that Yahweh's been holding back, but he won't hold back forever. Now another short vision, verse 7. Thus he showed me, and behold, the Lord stood beside a wall made by a plumb line, with a plumb line in his hand. Yahweh said to me, Amos, what do you see? I said, a plumb line. Then the Lord said, Behold, I will set a plumb line in the middle of my people Israel. I will not again pass by them any more. The high places of Isaac will be desolate, the sanctuaries of Israel will be laid waste, and I'll rise against the house of Jeroboam with the sword. Comment: the translation of plumb line in verse 8 is in question. Some translations have lead instead of plumb line, and others tin, but however it's translated, the gist of it is that this is a judgment from which Yahweh will not relent. He held back many times, but this time he'll go through with it. In verses 8 and 9, he'll not again pass by them, meaning he will not again pass by them without rendering judgment. Amos will not be able to pray this one away. As a consequence of the judgment, the high places of Isaac will be desolate, meaning their high places of pagan worship will be destroyed. Isaac simply refers to Israel. They're descendants of the man Isaac, same as their descendants of the man Jacob, who was also known as Israel. The Assyrians' method of operation was that whenever they invaded a country, they destroyed or removed all the idols, 1 Kings 18:33-34. The native people hoped in their gods. Therefore, when the Assyrians destroyed their gods, they were discouraged and their will to fight evaporated. Yahweh will cause the high places to be destroyed by the invading Assyrians. In verse 9, the Assyrians will lay waste to Israel's high places and sanctuaries, all the religious sites they've built up to their gods. In verse 9, the house of Jeroboam is the current royal family, Amos 1:1. Yahweh will rise against that house with a sword. So is Amos publicizing this prophecy? If so, the king will be offended, and Amos is putting his neck at risk. But on the other hand, he's just a herdsman of Tekoa, Amos 1:1. Maybe they'll ignore him. But now we find out, verse 10. Then Amaziah the priest of Bethel sent to Jeroboam king of Israel, saying, Amos has conspired against you in the middle of the house of Israel. The land is not able to bear all his words. For Amos says, Jeroboam will die by the sword, and Israel shall surely be led away captive out of his land. Amaziah also said to Amos, You seer, go flee away into the land of Judah, and there eat bread, and prophesy there. But don't prophesy again any more at Bethel, for it's the king's sanctuary, and it's a royal house. Comment in verses 10 and 11, Amaziah the priest sent a message to Jeroboam the king, saying, Amos is conspiring against you right here in the middle of Israel. The land's not able to bear his words. He says things such as Jeroboam will die by the sword, and Israel shall surely be led away captive out of their land. In verse 12, the same priest Amaziah told Amos, You seer, you better flee to Judah and prophesy there. Don't prophesy any more here at Bethel, for it's the king's sanctuary, and it's a royal house, meaning Bethel's the seat of the state religion, 1 Kings 12:32. Amaziah implies that Bethel is no place for a farmer from Judah to come, completely uninvited and unwelcome, to insult the king and the state religion, and such farmer better run back to his home country, back to Judah, and prophesy there. Coming up, Amos will answer Amaziah in the manner Yahweh would expect from one of his prophets, unflinchingly. Verse 14. Then Amos answered Amaziah, I was no prophet, neither was I a prophet's son, but I was a herdsman and a farmer of sycamore figs. And Yahweh took me from following the flock, and Yahweh said to me, Go prophesy to my people Israel. Comment in verses 14 to 15, Amos says to Amaziah the priest, It wasn't my idea to come here. I was minding my own business, herding and farming, but Yahweh told me, Go prophesy to my people Israel. He goes on speaking to Amaziah, verse 16. Now therefore listen to Yahweh's word. You say, Don't prophesy against Israel, and don't preach against the house of Isaac. Therefore Yahweh says, Your wife shall be a prostitute in the city, and your sons and your daughters shall fall by the sword, and your land shall be divided by line, and you yourself shall die in a land that is unclean, and Israel shall surely be led away captive out of his land. Comment, Paul said, Desire earnestly to prophesy, 1 Corinthians 14:39, but in verses 16 and 17, if God gives us a prophecy, he'll have to give us the backbone to go along with it. In verses 16 and 17, here's what a farmer said to the head of the state religion. Thus says Yahweh, Your wife will be a prostitute in the city, your sons and daughters shall fall by the sword, your land shall be divided up by a measuring line, meaning the entire country will be lost to foreigners who'll survey it and do whatever they want with it, and you yourself shall die in a land that is unclean, meaning in a foreign land, and Israel shall surely be led captive out of his land. Amos 8 is next.